Hello and welcome to episode 116 of the InGeneral podcast. My name is Caleb. I am joined by our resident lawyer, Corey Anderson. What's up, Corey?
How's it going, everybody? Objection, just for the record.
Permission to approach the bench, Your Honor.
Sustained. I'll allow it.
Overruled.
That voice you just heard overruling that objection was Double D Derek Davis. What's up, man?
What's up?
And next we have Jaden, all the way from
Hello.
Australia. How you doing?
I'm alright. A bit early. It's Tuesday for me, not Monday, so that was a bit
Future
weird.
Jaden.
Future boy.
And last but certainly not least, we have Chris Likes Dinos Pew. What's up, man?
Howdy, how's it going?
Good. Lots of nonstop news in the Jurassic World lately. Today we had, and I don't play this game, so what's it called again? Forza, what?
Forza
Horizon.
Yeah.
So yeah, Forza Horizon 5, is it 5?
Yeah, I think so.
They, Jaden, you want to tell us what happened with that today, real quick?
Well, they posted a tweet, caption, life, ... finds a way, full stop. And it seems to be a screenshot from the game with brachiosauruses.
Okay.
So that's what
And they
I
look
remember
very
for this
Jurassic Park coded, those brachiosaurs.
game. Yeah.
Okay. For
And
the
I guess for those of you who don't play Forza
Yes,
is a
thank you.
racing game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's a pretty standard race around tracks with cars game, and it seems just from the picture that it was in the tweet that there's possibly some sort of Jurassic tie-in, whether it be vehicles or maps, unsure. But likely there will be dinosaur related content with that game coming out soon.
Yeah,
Universal has also worked with them as well.
and
the
Forza
Fast and
Horizon.
Furious.
Oh, yeah. And then specifically
Yeah.
Forza Horizon is also, so the Forza, the main game, Forza games are like normal track racing. Horizon's like all about off-roading and like open world in quotation marks. So it's a lot more free and kind of off the beaten path, and a more natural fit than like a racing simulator. Like it's a more roam the experience of the wilderness simulator.
Okay, so we could get like a jungle with
Yeah,
dinosaurs
it's actually
or something.
Forza Horizon. Forza Horizon 5 is set in Mexico, open world Mexico.
Okay, all right.
So
I mean,
No way.
visually
plausibly after Jurassic World Dominion, there are dinosaurs there, right?
I mean, according to Jurassic World Dominion, apparently they are everywhere, and there's nothing you can do about it. So we just accept it and move on.
Nothing whatsoever we can do about it.
Nothing at
Coexist.
all. You just accept it, and move on.
So the guest who just joined us threw my brain off a little
Okay.
bit, but
Yeah.
Mr. J. Or Miss J.
Hello.
are you here? Is that you?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hey.
Cool. Cool.
So we were just joined by a fifth guest, Jay Malone. How's it going?
Hello. Good. How about you guys?
Good. We were talking about Forza Horizon 5 and a possible Jurassic collab.
Oh, yes, I saw that this morning. Is it for sure Jurassic?
It's not for sure Jurassic is the thing. Like they've done, as Jaden pointed out, they've done collaborations with Universal, Fast and the Furious. So there's definitely precedent there. But this might just be like some generic dinosaur experiences added into the game. But the posing of it certainly seems like if it's not for a Jurassic announcement at this time, it is to maybe test the waters. Is kind of like a vibe I get.
Okay.
Fair.
Anything else y'all want to say about Forza Horizon 5? Like as
Uh,
far as Jurassic
I-
goes?
If they do collab with Forza, I wish that Universal would collab with Epic Games. I feel like there's more opportunities there.
I wish.
Okay.
With Fortnite
Yeah,
and
so
Rocket
you're
League
talking
and stuff.
Fortnite.
Oh, they
Yeah.
already did Rocket League, but I'd love to see Fortnite collab. There's already been like fans have made so much art about it and stuff like that, and it would be such a cool concept. There's already dinosaurs in the game, all that jazz. It would just be nice to see.
they honestly, it always shocks me that they don't do more collaborations with different larger title games, like
Yeah.
whether, like you said, Fortnite or something like Call of Duty. Maybe like create some decos that match the vehicles in the game that are Jurassic Park inspired. Some game like some Jurassic Park employee like skins for your characters. It just kind of makes sense for so many different games, and a lot of other big titles like Star Wars definitely do those types of collaborations. And I think Jurassic would people would love playing around as like Muldoon, Grant, Ellie, random park worker number 5, all that. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I agree. I always have found it weird the fact that there's not more collaborations. Like we get the collaborations for like the most random shit. Like Call of Duty has Ghostface, Rick Grimes, and Godzilla and Kong.
21 Savage.
But right, or Nicki Minaj. It's just like, and it's like, it's not necessarily that I want like Jurassic for Call of Duty, but like the point that Chris made like stands. Like it's just like there's just not a lot of collaboration, and it's weird.
For the Jurassic Park fans that play those games, it would be great. And since so many people are fans of the franchise in one way or another, whether or not they're buying or unlocking these skins themselves, just seeing it in the game, I think would be pretty fun for a lot of people. And it makes sense because Jurassic doesn't have a really big game presence in terms of their own mainline games, so it makes a lot of sense to at least tap into those like collaborations.
Yeah. Jay, how was the theme park today?
I actually didn't work today, so it's great. Which I'm like, Mondays and Thursdays are currently my days off, like set in stone. So today I had off, which I'm thankful for because it is currently spring break, and if I don't have to be at the parks right now, I don't want to be.
For those who don't know, Jay is a raptor wrangler at Universal Orlando. So
just a vet tech. I just like to scoop our poop. That's all I get to do.
Yes.
And take photos.
Do you have the glove on your hand and you dig in it like Ellie did? Do you get to do that?
Yes, exactly. Okay, I love doing it's actually one of my favorite bits that I love doing is like throwing on a rubber glove, and kids of course are all like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "You don't want to know."
You don't want to know.
That's great. Speaking of video games, there's a big one that's still in the works as we speak right now, called Jurassic Park Survival.
It survived.
Does someone want to bring us up to speed on the status of Jurassic Park Survival?
Yeah, it survived. Okay, yeah, specifically, so we've recapped this in the past, but a few years back, Saber Interactive and like all of their studios within their publishing group was bought out by Embracer Group, a larger conglomerate that was buying up so much of the industry. Long story short, they bought way too much of the industry, were bleeding cash, and now have had to shed a lot of their companies by either shutting them down, which is really unfortunate, or in some cases selling them off. So Embracer sold off Saber to themselves, essentially. So Saber is now once again a independent studio. They retained most of their publishing studios. I think Embracer kept some, but long story short is Saber, with all the studios that they have retained, apparently have been able to retain it with positive cash flow and no need for layoffs, which is fantastic news. And also that they confirm the games that they still are producing and making in Jurassic Park Survival is indeed one of the games. Embracer does not own it. It's Saber. And that game is still in active development. And everyone won in that situation, it seems like, pertaining to the Saber news.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm probably not alone, but I was a little worried that we were about to have another Jurassic game cancellation.
I thought it was going, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. Yep. Same.
Even when I woke up that morning to when the news came out for the tweet that they got saved, I read an article, and because when I was like trying to reach out to find news on LinkedIn, most of the developers were in Russia, but I know they closed most of their studios in Russia after this sale has officially gone through. So that's what I got worried. But then when Tim tweeted saying that safe, I was like, oh, okay, we're sweet. But yeah, that was my only concern.
And that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of like people are like, well, hey, it's a big Jurassic Park game. Universal will make sure it's saved. But the problem is depending on how that contract is, it's normally not up to Universal. Like Lucasfilm would have loved to save the Mandalorian game, but they couldn't.
Right.
It wasn't a matter of money. It was just a matter of that game company saying, we're not going to make that game because it is, games are more expensive than ever. And they want to do games as a service, things that make continuous income, multiplayer battle passes and whatnot. So single player games are risky and expensive. And hearing that they're trying to shed cash, I was like, oh man, Jurassic Park Survival. That's like the epitome of like a risky game, a single player narrative driven IP game that people buy once, play once, and probably doesn't have a lot of additional income options. So,
but I think on Jurassic though, Jurassic is such like a big IP. I mean, I get your point with the Mandalorian because that is extremely comparable. But if they were going to save something that had a lot of money making potential, I mean, Jurassic is up there for for confidence levels, at least for them. If they were going to save something,
makes sense. And I'm glad that they, because we don't know their contract, but this might solidify that publishing group as like a primary partner for Jurassic games going forward, because survival is only one subset of styles of games that can happen. I mean, we've had the park builders and now we've got survival, but there's a lot of other options out there. So it's good to know that maybe they also value that brand and the opportunities that are within it that are just entirely untapped.
Yeah,
and
Jurassic.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Caleb.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say Jurassic is a huge thing right now. It's up there with some of the other big IPs, I would say. And not that I would necessarily want this, but maybe there's some way for them to add a continuous sort of income thing to this game somehow. But like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there might be DLC, and then I don't know. It normally doesn't go over well when you have to pay for skins in a single player game only, though. So I feel like their options are limited there, unless there's just some sort of aspect of the game that we just don't know about yet. And it is early days.
Yeah.
We know less than we know. Wait, what? No, we know more of less.
You're the only you there ever was.
Oh wow. Corey. Corey, what were you gonna say a second ago?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I'm glad that Saber retained this, because I was going through and looking at their history and the games that they have produced, at least been a part of, and they were part of all the Halo games. I know that was mostly Microsoft, but they had a hand in that. And I mean, I've played all the Halo games. I love it. They did the Ghostbusters game that came out. That was really supposed to be Ghostbusters 3, and a lot of people really enjoyed that game a lot. So they've got a good track record under their belt, and just based on the way that the trailer that we got looked, I mean, it looks really good, and I'm confident they'll do a good job now that they get to keep it.
Yeah, and they have some experimental games, whether or not it's their driving simulator games or their, I forget what that game is, but it's all about like destruction simulation that uses like real-time physics for everything, like the fire spreading volume. Like it does some really, really cool technical things.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have like the Warhammer 40K Space Marines games, which I started looking up the footage of their upcoming one, and I was like, wow, this looks pretty good. Like they definitely do have some experience within AAA game development. And I think that Jurassic is in pretty, like, even though they don't have a game like that underneath their belt yet, neither did was it Creative Assembly that did Alien Isolation?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think it was Creative Assembly, but neither did they. I think they had mainly like real time strategy types of games underneath their belt before.
Yeah, it was Creative Assembly.
Nice. Jay, were you gonna say something a minute ago?
Yeah, I'm so sorry for cutting you off, Jay. I feel so bad.
No, that's good. Like literally all of my things have been like, yep, I agree. Like a quick little like, yes. Those kind of things. Because yeah, I was my 2 cents were, I really hope, again what Chris said about single players, like other than like certain DLCs, what I really hope is we get like a Nostromo edition for that, whether it's like Nublar or Sorna, something like that, where we have like the main game, but then we get like those missions where you can play it as either favorite characters or like a specific story that we've never really gotten to see at Jurassic. That could be a little fun to do with it. But I was amongst all of you guys, like I was so nervous when I woke up that morning, and I was like, it's just going to be so many other it's going to be every Jurassic blank survival game that we've gotten so far, where it makes it so far and it's just going to get canned in the 11th hour because of something or other. And it's like, yeah, you would think that Jurassic would be like a no-brainer, but it wouldn't have been the first time. You know, I'm still shocked to this day that we honestly got the Telltale game, because of like, it had so many freaking problems during production and got delayed so many times. But it's still funny. This is just a wild thought. Like, I was just looking at the new 4K that was at Walmart, and the fact that that's still the game that they're like putting on the bonus features and stuff like that. I'm like, can we really not, for the 30th anniversary, get new like bonus features, like talking about the new game or something?
It would only make sense to like at least swap that out. Like, if they're not going to change anything else, at least swap that one very specific era timed marketing push, like replace
exactly.
era timed marketing.
You can't even buy it anymore, I don't think.
Exactly. It's like you can't even get, so they're promoting a game that you can't even get.
Yeah,
like,
it's not even like something you can like revisit digitally, like legally. It literally, you can only own old physical copies or pirate that game. There is no first-hand way to buy that game.
If we put Jurassic Park Survival on the back of a 4K, that means it has to happen, though.
Yes. It has to.
Yes.
At that point. Right?
If you were to make like a Nostromo type thing for Survival, what would it be? Because I have one that immediately came to mind that I would love to see them make like a DLC of.
Clarissa.
So did someone say Clarissa?
Yeah.
Did I hear that?
Yeah.
Like that explains it all.
Well,
Corey?
so that's true. That's a good one. My thought was pick up when they try to turn the power back on, and then follow Ray Arnold and get that whole in the maintenance shed, and have it end with like the raptor pouncing on him.
Him dying.
Yeah. But that's like you play Ray Arnold.
I feel like we
You
spoke
rapped a
about this-
motherfucker.
I feel like we spoke about this with Aziz in one of the earlier podcasts as well. We were talking about where it left off. And I think, I don't know if you remember, Caleb, I forget what Aziz said. He said that it would be cool if it was before, like, they got off to see the Triceratops, that one of the rangers got, like, sent off to go get something, but got, like, locked out from, like, the power outage and stuff like that.
Aziz was saying, like, maybe you could, like, be with Harding and Ellie or something, too, which would be interesting.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, there are a lot of little cool moments that could lead to like a little side expansion, like a little special one-off. I mean, even like assuming the game doesn't intersect this or anything, like you could even do a story with like Biosyn retrieving the cryo can, but it can be a pretty like tight, short type of thing that repurposes areas.
You can make a really
playing
good
for the
series
bad
out of
guys.
this game.
Yeah.
And even like if they make a Jurassic Park Survival 2, you can just go sauna and then become like one of the rangers from the Lost World or whatever, and
It
get
would
lost
be
or something.
It would be the Lost World Survival, Jaden. Get it right. Come on now.
The Lost
Sorry.
World Jurassic Park Survival.
But like you can do so like if this series goes well, that like it's very infinite with the amount of possibilities you can go. So hopefully it's done right, because it's just there's so much potential for it to be like this massive thing. That's what I'm excited for.
Double D, Derek Davis, what do you think about Jurassic Park Survival, and do you have any more Jurassic World Dominion one-liners for us?
Well, I mean, you know, Maisie's my favorite character, so I got all of her dialogue just memorized. Just kidding. I mean, the only games I really know are Mind Games, but apart from that, I do really like everything I'm hearing about Jurassic Park Survival. I'm just really glad it's happening, like everyone's saying, because I mean, there was that literally the same title, Jurassic Park Survival from PlayStation, you know, that didn't happen. And, you know, I felt like, well, here we are again, deja vu. You know? So I'm just glad
Jurassic World Survivor.
Yeah, that one too. Yeah. So it's like would have been the third time technically with that title or the version of that title. So I'm just glad it's still happening, because I love the premise of the game. I mean, that's one of the things I loved about the Telltale Jurassic Park game, was that it took place, you know, within hours of the original movie. I mean, I wonder if they had some inspirations from the Telltale game a little bit, maybe. I mean, actually, Jay, didn't you interview one of the creators of the Telltale game once?
Yeah, Joe Penny. We interviewed because when I was in college, I had a radio show with one of my friends every Saturday that was about dinosaurs. And so we got to interview him to help promote the game. And that was really, really fun. And so we had like a little bit of like behind the scenes, like development things, like the Triceratops was supposed to be an ankylosaur originally, like stuff specifically about episode 1. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, but they were trying their hardest to completely not talk about the fact that it had been delayed for a year and a half at that point.
God.
You know, it's something about Jurassic Park Survival that goes through my mind when we're talking about the Telltale game is, you know, what I really liked about the Telltale game was it realized that there were other species on the island other than those that you saw in the film. And I do worry that this game is literally going to be like the greatest hits of like all the species that we see in Jurassic Park, and then completely forget that there's supposed to be other species on the island and pose it in a way that everything you're seeing is like everything there is. That's what, like, it's one thing if you don't cross paths with some of the other species because you just don't kind of go to those areas. It's sort of another thing if the game just frames it in a way like, and these are the 7 species on Isla Nublar, and it's like, yeah, but no. And not just from the sequels, but you know, the Jurassic Park brochure and DNA vials at Nedry Seals. Like, we know, I would love if this game takes a Telltale approach and says, okay, what does the Herrerasaurus look like? Okay, what does the Metriacanthosaurus look like? Or like, okay, Stegosaurus should be on the island as well. And
I want Metri so fucking
that's
bad.
the one I've been waiting for. I don't know what it is about that species, but I've always wanted to see it, and it kills me that we haven't, because it's even one of the few that like Jurassic World put on its species list that actually carried over. I just want that one so badly.
I will never not rage about the fact that it was supposed to be in the Jurassic World ride in Hollywood and they cut it.
I really would love to know what they would have done if they just would have done like the Sistoni website art version, or if like in the project they adapted it, because I would prefer them to adapt it. I'm a firm believer that he is a great artist, but his art style did not fit Jurassic at all.
Yeah, it was. I love Julius's stuff, but it was very jarring compared to all the other stuff.
To his defense, he was not drawing them to fit within the Jurassic movies. He was supposed to be doing like an online dino encyclopedia, so he did like modern dinosaur art that wasn't meant to be like, this is what they look like in the movie. It just kind of got.
It was like more like Jurassic World Institute.
Yeah, exactly.
Style.
They just didn't carry through with it and implement it fully.
Hammond collection style.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
I like that method.
Yeah.
You know, I still like the Fallen Kingdom Metriacanthosaurus toy.
Fair.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Take away the bear claws, like fix the claws in some of it. I think it's a pretty unique design. Yeah, like these weird bear claw, like it kind of reminds me of like, I
don't know. Some people like bears, you know.
Bears are cool.
So when do you
see a
random
guys... book on my desk?
Oh, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Caleb loves wild bears.
So
it's like, you got some shit to say about bears?
I'm learning how to escape a bear and a Metriacanthosaurus. So,
do you think with all this news with Saber, do you think this delays the game to next year, like officially now, or do you think there's still a chance it might come out at the end of the year?
I don't think it was ever coming out this year, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I think it's always been aiming for mid next year. I think that we're looking at, this is a pure guess, but a June 2025 release is probably what they're targeting. And I'm thinking they didn't announce the date simply because they didn't want to have to go through the embarrassment of like giving a date and then pushing it back a few months. Like, it's so much better just to leave the date. As this year goes on, it'll be very obvious of whether or not they're going to hit the 2025 mark. But maybe when they announce the game, there's like, I think we're going to make it, but we know how game development goes and we might need another 6 months. So let's just hold off on saying.
Yeah. I think we'll find out more news around June, because that's when all like the gaming like awards or like those things happen and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think October 2025 is my realistic release
that
date
seems. And plus, they have a big game coming out this year. They have that Warhammer Space Marine 2 game coming out like November of this year. So
Yeah.
there, another big release coming out around that period of time the next year makes sense. And I'd say, like, honestly, the soonest I could see it would be like June 2025. But like a fall release makes a lot of sense.
Do we think there's any chance that the movie will have any connection to the game?
I'd wager not, because I think the game started in development before David Koepp started on the movie. I think David Koepp started on the movie early 2023, and I think the game started development early 2022. And then I'm imagining for a long period of that time, when David was working on the script, they didn't know if that idea was going to work. So it's very possible that like the developers wouldn't even get input. And then it's also possible that they're not even intersecting similar timelines, so it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, you know what else comes out in 2025 is a movie that we would be I mean, not like literally connecting, but it would be like Jurassic things all coming out June and July, or July and October, or whatever. They'd all be coming out around the same time.
And
let's talk about Jurassic World 4, maybe.
And I was gonna say presumably Chaos Theory.
Oh yeah.
Well, like
that too.
That, so it's gonna be a big Jurassic narrative.
We're eating good.
Yes, we are. So, what's the excitement level for Jurassic World 4? Where are we at?
It's pretty high right now. Optimistic. I mean, I keep saying this. I'm optimistically cautious is kind of how I like to phrase it, because that tends to be my default every time one of these movies comes out. It's like, this is the time that they're gonna nail it. I can feel it. That may or may not happen every time, but especially when we're like this kind of range out from it, like a year and a couple months, it's like, okay, this is when they're gonna do it. And to be fair on this one, they're hitting a lot of beats that you like to see. We've already know that David Koepp wrote the script, like big check in my book. We've got a great director in Gareth Edwards, so we've got that. And now we're hearing that potentially Scarlett Johansson might be in it, which that could be a little bit more divisive, I think, across people. I think my take on it is I don't want to see Black Widow Scarlett Johansson. That's not what I want to see. But she has some acting credits under her belt that are great. Under the Skin, which would not fit in a Jurassic movie, but it shows that she has range. I think that is really promising. So I think that she's got it in her. I remember I think one of the first Scarlett Johansson movies, I remember two Scarlett Johansson movies where she is like super young, is Home Alone 3 and Eight-Legged Freaks. She's in both of those movies, and I'm like,
God, Eight-Legged Freaks! I never thought about that one.
Yes, yeah, and so she's been in a wide range of movies that I don't think a lot of people recognize sometimes, but I think she's a great actress, and depending on what kind of story and what kind of role is written for her, I think she has the potential to absolutely nail it.
Absolutely. She was in The Prestige. She was in Isle of Dogs. Lucy is one that I like, where she actually comes face to face with a dinosaur for a second.
Yep.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. How do y'all feel about Scarlett Johansson in general?
That's the name of our podcast.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
In general.
Roll credit.
The title.
That was not. That was not intentional.
I want to kind of mirror what Corey said.
I do.
Divorce.
What Corey said.
Divorce is a Jurassic theme. Come on now.
And I'm losing my train of thought here.
You were mirroring.
I don't want her.
Corey.
I don't want her to play like action hero Black Widow type of character. Hearing this movie is going to be an action movie and whatnot, that like those were the alarm bells that sort of went off in my head, where I'm like, oh, are they kind of typecasting her into that type of role? But like, let's just say that she's not playing the type of role. She's playing a scientist or something else, or she is playing that role, but actually has the ability to play it in a very different way, then I'm a lot more interested. I think that I'm very neutral on the news. I don't have any bad opinions about it. It's just sort of one that I'm like, yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. That could be cool.
Mm-hmm. Jay, thoughts?
Yeah. No, not to be a parrot, but I also agree. I love ScarJo. It's initially one of those, like, when I woke up, saw the news, I had like a bit of like, oh, okay. Because it's not necessarily she's not a performer who I would necessarily like tie to Jurassic, but like Chris Pratt wouldn't have been initially either, like at the time. So I'm not mad about it. It's just not something that I would have picked for myself. But that's also kind of the way that I felt about Jurassic in the lot. Like, I'm a little bit more forgiving than I think. Like, obviously the world films are very divisive. People either kind of like them or kind of don't. And I'm kind of like, there's just things that I would have done differently. And so that's kind of the way that I'm approaching this one, is again with the skeptical caution of like wanting to be hopeful for a new Jurassic project, but also just being like, we'll see. And so ScarJo being cast doesn't necessarily help sway it in one reason or another. Like, it's going to be more, of course, like the dinosaurs and like finding out more about the plot and stuff. That's going to be way more. Because to me, as long as the performer, like actors for a Jurassic film, what they have to be able to do is just believe. Like, and that's the biggest thing. And that's also just the biggest issue with like most CGI or like fantastical films, is like you have to have performers and actors that can believe in what they are not able to see. And something that I think at least Jurassic Park and The Lost World Jurassic Park do very, very well, because of the kind of sets and stuff that they fostered, is letting the actors believe what they are encountering, and something that for me personally has kind of been lost in the last 4 Jurassic films, but hopefully it will return, because I do think ScarJo has a really good tendency of acting to fantastical things that aren't there.
Jaden, how do you feel about that Jurassic Park 3 slander?
I copy all the time, so I'll let it
Oh,
slide.
no, but also, how do you feel about ScarJo?
Oh, well, when Aziz put it in the chat, I lost my shit, because I didn't think Universal would go this way at all. Because I didn't have her in my thoughts, because I thought she's like 80, you know what I mean? Like, she's too good that I didn't know they'd go that direction. But I do feel like, and we're gonna get that Avengers level Scarlett Johansson, if the way that they're going with the movie, how they want it John Wick and stuff like that. I feel like we're gonna get that action kind of superhero-ish, I guess. I know no one really wants to see that, but I'm kind of already accepting it since what the rumors are and stuff like that. But I don't think she'll do a bad job in it. I think she'll do all right. I have no complaints at all. I'm kind of already accepting the fact that it's already gonna go in that kind of action hero vibe. But yeah, that's my thing on it. But she's probably the best candidate to do it.
Oh, yeah. Double D, do you have any ScarJo thoughts?
Oh, do I? Well, I mean, she wasn't on our bingo card for potential actress to be in the movie, I don't think, from any of the prior podcasts that we've done. So it's kind of interesting that that's who ended up being a potential lead for the new movie. But I mean, as Jay mentioned, she would be good to like play off of like, CGI characters. I mean, she already did with Bruce Banner / the Hulk in the Marvels movie. She made us believe that she could love a Hulk. So she could make us believe that she loves a dinosaur. I mean, not like that, but I mean, maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
Human dino hybrids. How'd you
they
get the 2 dinosaurs to
We're gonna find out. We're finally gonna find out in this movie. That's like exclusive information right here. We're finally gonna know. Yeah, put it in
No,
the news headlines, everybody. Yeah.
You make a good point though. And I was gonna kind of say the same thing. Like, this isn't a knock against Marvel necessarily, but like she's worked with a lot of CGI, with the Marvel films she's been in, and so I mean she's good at acting as if she believes what's going on is real. My When I saw the tweet that someone sent into a chat that said Scarlett Johansson was offered the lead role in Jurassic World 4, I was like, what the hell? Because I didn't expect it at all. Like, Scarlett Johansson, like, I like her, she's great, but I just never put her together with Jurassic. And so I don't know. I want to see. I've warmed up to it a lot more. I'm kind of on board now with it after I like looked at all her credits and stuff. But I also want to see how they fill out the rest of the cast, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, as long as they got her character right, because I mean, ScarJo, you know, make her have scars all over her body from dinosaurs, make her this grizzled, you know, like mercenary or something, make her like Anne from Trespasser, then we'll give it a pass.
I will say, like, my two last thoughts on it are: one, Jurassic has always been like it's a ensemble piece. Like, they've always been like ensemble, so it's definitely going to be like, who else is going to be a part of this group with her? As well as, I don't know if it was for Lucy or what it was, but when she got announced, I was doing some looks, and there was a picture of her with like a short black bob kind of cut or something that I found. And I was like, I'll be damned if that isn't like what I pictured Sarah Harding from the book, though. And not that I think she got cast as like a young Sarah Harding or anything like that. God, what I wouldn't give for Julianne Moore to return. But it was just a thought that I had while I was like doing it. I was like, she does fit like exactly like what Sarah Harding in the book, with like if she had black hair.
Yeah. Wasn't Lucy like when Fallen Kingdom was like in pre-production and production? Wasn't Lucy what they said Maisie's name was? Didn't they say it was Lucy? Or
yeah.
I don't know why I just remembered that, but
it's all connected.
Anyway, it is all connected. So Jaden, you were talking about, or Chris or Jaden, I don't remember who said it, but talking about how she might play a scientist, and that sort of took my mind to all these rumors that have been flying around lately about this movie, Jurassic World 4. There are rumors from pooper scoopers on Twitter that this movie is set between the first two movies, and it's about mercenaries going to rescue scientists and stuff like that. And there are people out there who really want prequels, and there are people out there that I have seen lately that really do not want prequels. I've seen like that direct sentiment. How do y'all feel about this? Like, do y'all want it to be a prequel? Would you rather it be a sequel? Us folks at Outpost have kind of been hearing both, because both are like, there's just rumors all over the place lately. But how do y'all feel about prequel versus sequel or whatever?
Yeah, I just want to chime in here then and say, like, so I think I'd prefer a prequel if it was done right, in the right time period, the right story. I think that's what I want at the moment. However, I don't necessarily believe that is what is going to happen. Like, for one thing, that Scooper, the one that's kind of got a lot of V Scooper, I think it is, when they said, what's it called? That it is based on Hurricane Clarissa, set between Jurassic Park and the Lost World and whatnot, that to me lost any sense of credibility to the rumor. I do not see that being a story that they're going to tap into. Not that I wouldn't want to see that movie. I really doubt that they're like, hey, we got the perfect movie, Hurricane Clarissa.
It's like, too good to be true.
That is just very obscure. That is... there's a very select amount of people that are like, oh yeah, that's fucking awesome. And don't get me wrong, you can make a good story there, but you can make a good story anywhere. So I don't necessarily think that they're going to tap that deep to like try to figure out where to go next. And they're like Hurricane Clarissa. So when we talk about like the John Wick style character and everything along those lines, I'm giving all of those rumors a lot less credence. I mean, we do know it's going to be a more action oriented movie, but that scooper has kind of lost a lot of their credibility when they've kind of put that Clarissa thing. Now, as for your question, prequel or sequel, yeah, I'd prefer a prequel. And I think there's a lot of cool ways that you can do that, but I'd wager it's going to be a sequel.
There are pros and cons to both, I think, right?
Yeah.
So, Corey, where do you fall on that question?
I tend to lean towards sequel just because I think there is a lot that can go wrong with a prequel. I think having a prequel would be really, really cool. But to me, if you're going to do a prequel, it seems like that's a one-off thing. Like you're not going to be able to fit 3 new movies into like a prequel sort of series if you're getting somebody as big as Scarlett Johansson, right? Because you have to worry about if you do a prequel set between Park and Lost World, or between the 3 Park movies and the start of Jurassic World, wherever you're fitting it before the World movies, you got to have to deal with their story too as a part of that. So one big thing is you're going to have the story be able to fit that. But if you're establishing new characters after all of the Jurassic World movies, you don't have to worry about that as much. So if you are doing the rumors that are going around of, oh, these are mercenaries going into rescue scientists, okay, well, why haven't we heard of any of these people in the Jurassic World movies at all? And it's Universal, they want to make money. If this movie makes money, they're gonna make more movies with Scarlett Johansson, and you just got to fit it into the world, right? So that's kind of, I lean into it just for the story to make sense. Is okay, let's have it set after what we've already seen.
No one knows who these people on the island in between Jurassic Park and the Lost World were, because InGen covers everything up.
True.
I mean, that's certainly possible.
And I know, and I'm just saying and joking, because want a prequel really badly, and I'm not gonna shut up about it until we find out that it's a sequel.
I ultimately agree with you, and we talked about this a little bit off the podcast, but like the boardroom scene that is in Jurassic the Lost World, how in that scene they talk about how they destroyed all of the organic assets on Nublar, and that's a story beat that obviously wasn't true, and it's a deleted scene. It's up in the air because it actually did play on some TV when airings, so it is kind of up in the air whether or not it's actually canon, but obviously all organic assets weren't destroyed because we have Jurassic World, so that just goes into like my kind of thing, like, hey, just make it fit within the story, don't break the canon.
Yeah, totally. Jaden, where do you fall on that question?
I've always kind of said this even on previous podcasts. I feel like if they were gonna go prequel route, I think a live action series would work out in the best way. Because you don't need to rush and fitting something in like a 2-hour movie and stuff like that. You can take your time with it, and you can make multiple series, you know what I mean, from Jurassic Park 3 to Jurassic World, or even have mini flashbacks even between the first 3 and stuff like that. Yeah, for the new movie, I would prefer a sequel, just because pretty much from what Corey was saying, it's there's nothing you can stuff up if you go back if you do a movie, because as I said before, the time and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like Dominion did open up a lot of new storylines and stuff like that they can capitalize on. I feel like that's probably the easiest way, to kind of, if they want to make a new trilogy, if this movie does go really well, I feel like Dominion's kind of set that up now.
And this is just a random thing that just popped into my head, but do y'all feel like the performance and critical response of this movie matters immensely to the future of Jurassic? Like, do y'all think that if this goes poorly and it does not make as much money as we want, and to be clear, I don't think either of those things are necessarily going to happen, because Jurassic makes $1 billion every time it comes out. I don't know if this will be as big as a trilogy installment necessarily. Maybe it will. I don't know. But I don't know.
Yeah, the success of this one, I think, will determine whether or not we get a remake of the first 2 sooner rather than later, personally.
That's an interesting way to put that. Okay.
It'll happen eventually.
I mean, I definitely think the success of it's definitely important. I don't necessarily think that they're gonna shelve Jurassic.
Right.
But like
Right.
obviously if this movie underperforms, it runs the risk of having a steep drop off due to some disappointing recent sequels. So I do think that it could be a lot more, it could have more heavy results for the brand perception, the brand interest, the brand direction, all of that.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's probably a lot of want and need to get this one right and rebuild audience trust and interest.
Yeah, it's got everything going for it so far, pretty much. Jay, where do you fall on the prequel versus sequel question?
God, again, not to sound like a parrot, but basically what has been said is a lot of my similar views. Personally, kind of what I had said before, just things, the way that the overall franchise has kind of been handled, I would have personally liked it to be done a little differently. I would have taken a break after the movies and done a series. And I think that Wu is honestly the perfect conduit to tell prequels and sequels. And so like through him as a central character, you can tell flashbacks to fill in gaps of things that we have not seen yet / have questions about, all the way from the creation of Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, as well as moving the story forward past Dominion. And so I would have loved like a 3 to 5 season show centered around him, filling in those gaps, and then maybe like 2 or 3 movies or spinoff series doing other things after a slow break after a while from films. That being said, if for films, I want a prequel really, really fucking bad. Like, really bad. I want one. And it's not even just Jurassic. Like, I just want anything from 1980 to 2005. Like, stuff, a story that we have not seen, because there's just so many questions I have. And then the 10 years that Jurassic World is in operation. So honestly, but there are, like, I don't want to snafu or turn my head from like moving the story forward. I think that's totally valid. People who want only stories moving forward in this new world. I just personally have a lot of questions from stuff in the past that I would love to see. And I think that there's lots of avenues for stories, as well as like smaller, more intimate stories and stuff that I think people tend to kind of gloss over. Like, I've always wanted a story focused on Costa Rica about like the negligence of big corporations and stuff like that, like, and their cover it, like, and we have so many really nice taught stories that are available right now on different streaming sources about things like that. And I think that Jurassic's really missing an opportunity to not do a tighter story like that.
Jurassic legal drama, give it to me.
I agree.
I'll take it.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, honestly, yeah.
Does anyone know when, as far as like a prequel to Jurassic World would be concerned, when did Owen start working at Jurassic World? Does anyone know the answer to that question?
I think that's in the expanded lore of like, isn't it like 2008 or something like that?
Right.
It was, yeah, somewhere around then, because he had been working there, I think, a couple years before the Raptors were born.
Okay. Well, there's Masrani has some line in Jurassic World about like, I've worked with this guy before, but like, and now he's coming back or something. I don't remember.
All the lines in Jurassic World like that, if you think about them, make no sense. Where it's just like Lonnie and Hoskins having never met, them all acting like they're meeting each other or wouldn't know about each other on the island, and then them also seemingly like being part of like the day-to-day operations, but then not knowing what's like just Claire not being clear to know what's inside of the Indominus Rex. Like,
no, the reason the reason I asked that question is because, like, as far as prequels to Jurassic World are concerned, like, if you didn't want to bring Pratt back, maybe there would be a little bit of time where you could do that. And I'm not trying to knock Pratt. I'm just saying, like, they're already saying like main characters aren't going to return anymore and blah blah blah. Right. But like, Double D, where do you fall on the prequel question versus sequel?
I mean, in terms of just the new movie in general, they didn't stop to think if they should. But, Sorry, I had to. But since they are, I still would like a prequel. I think I voiced that before, but my reasoning still for a prequel is because I feel like, as everyone else has been saying, there's still a lot of stories to be told in the past. And I feel like when you go beyond Dominion, is it still going to feel like a Jurassic movie anymore? Because you're away from the islands, you're away from the characters, you're away from everything that feels like a Jurassic Park movie. It's just going to feel like a Dino Crisis movie, which I would love. But, it doesn't have to be a Jurassic Park movie. I could just be something else.
A Dino Crisis movie.
A Dino Crisis movie, yes. But I don't know. I feel like there's still more lore that could be explored in the past, especially with that, 15-year gap between Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World. Like, there's so many things that there could be a whole trilogy right there that could just be, as mentioned before, just, quieted by InGen or, some good lawyers like Corey out there. That keep everything in the dark.
Yeah, that's what lawyers do. They cover things up.
That's my job. And by my job, I mean not at all. I'm gonna put that on the record. That is a joke.
I wanted to chime in.
Very much a lawyer thing to do.
Yeah.
Arkansas State Bar, are you listening?
Now they know.
No, I've said it a lot. I would just love a prequel just because that era is so nostalgic, and I think there are a lot of untapped stories there. But like, the cons to a prequel do make sense about, like, you really have to make, in my opinion, with Jurassic, like, you should really take the time and make sure you are tying this in, like, this is going to work with what comes afterwards. And I mean, I'm not saying they couldn't do that, but like,
careful.
I don't know.
There's a precedent for them not doing that.
No, I know.
That's like what makes it scary. But I think prequel is more riskier, but I think it has larger promise, because a prequel could kind of do two birds with one stone. It could really set up something in the future. It could really plant some cool seeds.
Yeah.
And it can revisit, it can tell a new story in an era that's revisited, but something that's fresh with fresh characters. I think that it could really be powerful. But as brought up earlier, like, you're casting Scarlett Johansson and whatnot, like, you want her for future films. If it's a prequel, you're kind of locking that out. But maybe she only has a 1-film contract anyhow, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
everybody will die at this film.
I mean, that was a thought. I wanted more people to die in Jurassic World Dominion, so more death would be good.
I mean,
I wanted
and that's just me saying a random thought, but
and that's the power of an all-new cast, is we don't really know who the leads are, which means that, like, the plot armor isn't there, which means you're not watching every scene knowing exactly who's, like, actually at risk of being chomped. So like, a cast of all new characters is really gonna up the stakes of, like, the characters, like, mortality.
I think Kep writing this script is, like, gives me hope for a prequel. Doesn't 100% mean that it's a prequel, but like, Kep's worked with the novels before when he's writing. Like, he knows this stuff, I would say. And so maybe, I mean, if Kep writes something, maybe he gets it right as far as lore or connections to other stuff. But
I hope he surprises us.
I would love for Kep to write a prequel, but at the same time, if we assume that the franchise is always leading towards chronological sequels at some point, there's no better person to realign, like, what the future of Jurassic looks like than David Kep as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of merit of bringing him in to write a sequel. And like I said, the rumor mill right now seems like the same, like a conglomerate of scoopers all regurgitating the same thing through a feedback loop, which makes me think there's probably only one solid. And the Clarissa thing popping in there is such an obscure detail that I'm like, if that were true, whomever, like, has access to the information is not going to be like, and then there's this hurricane called Hurricane Clarissa. They're going to say, and then there's a hurricane that's coming and whatnot. So the fact that it honed in on Hurricane Clarissa tells me that they're getting nonsensical information from fans rather than an actual scooper.
And the nonsensical fan is me.
Don't get me wrong, I would like that story, but I would put money on it being a sequel right now.
There you go.
So my question was for earlier, when you guys were talking about the success of this movie, if that leads to, like, prequels and stuff like that. I want to ask real quick because we saw with Dominion like the straight up uproar when it first came out. Not many people liked it. All the websites, like all the what do you call it, like professional reviewers, like what was it, like below 20%, but then all the audience's scores were like over 70. So would you say that Dominion was kind of successful or not really? And it still made over $1 billion.
Well, made $1 billion.
Here's what
Yeah.
here's what matters.
But, like, it
Number
was the-
one is it made $1 billion. Like
that's all they care
after
about.
that comes critical reception is up there too, but yeah.
But as we know from the Hollywood Reporter, Steven Spielberg, like what the Hollywood, or was it? It was a mixture of the Hollywood Reporter and Jeff Snyder's reporting, basically that Spielberg saw the trajectory that Jurassic was on, drew the parallel with the Transformers film, which is the exact same thing that was being said to defend the Transformers films, being like they shouldn't change anything because look at the money it's making. Yeah, screw the reviewers and look at the audience score. But the thing is the audience score is never a great metric because a lot of times, unless there's like some sort of controversy, it's usually a review bomb by like super fans and casuals that just kind of make it go a little bit higher. The people that didn't like it necessarily, they're not seeming, so they're not necessarily inclined to go and write a review about it. They just kind of, so it tends to review kind of more positively in that regard, unless it's like atrocious.
So they've made changes here. Like they brought in David Koepp.
It's very clearly like not like we're not like it's the direct follow up to, even if it's a follow up to Jurassic World Dominion. It seems like they're trying to distance a little bit. Where it's
okay.
It's fresh take.
They want to change the tone.
Yeah.
I have a conspiracy theory question for you guys about David Litch versus Edwards. Like, do you think like Litch was like thrown out there and they were feeding like feedback from people and judging things, and they were like, no, we're gonna go with somebody completely different now because like they're tonally they are. Like,
from now on this podcast, his name is pronounced Litch. That is the rule.
Litch, lychee.
No, he's a leech to us though, so he's just gonna be Leech.
David Leitch.
There's so many possibilities. I had that thought, like maybe I personally would not say that. I don't think you can say definitively that Universal didn't see the reaction to the director announcement. Like they at least probably were aware of it a little bit. Whether they were doing that on purpose or it influenced them, I have no idea.
I doubt they would have dropped him.
I doubt it too.
Totally off of that. It's possible that they had some concerns that he wasn't, like maybe some people in the producing team or whatnot had some concerns like, yeah, he's talented, but he might not be the right fit. So then when whatever drama played out behind the scenes, their own internal apprehensions fueled by basically the internet going like, that's not what I want from Jurassic, might have just been like, yeah, you know what? We already had some like speed bumps. Like maybe this isn't going to work. But it could have just been the speed bumps in general. Like, like I'm sure they're not ignorant. I'm sure that they even drew those conclusions themselves. Like, okay, he's competent, but is this the right fit? Right. If they thought that he was the perfect fit and they needed him, they would have mended.
They may have overcome
mended whatever happened
bumps,
and made it work. But the fact that they didn't make it work kind of meant like they're like, yeah, we think you can do a good job, but like they weren't like married to him. Gareth,
it happened so quickly too, like really quickly.
Which does tell me that maybe there were some like reservations somewhere along the line with some people. Like I imagine he might have been more of a studio pick, where the creative team, aka like Frank Marshall and Steven Spielberg and whatnot, might have been like, yeah, he's good. I would like to work with him, but maybe not this movie.
Not this sure. Yep. Valid.
I mean, we may have been his producer being an asshole away from a David Litch Jurassic movie. So
I'm glad that we're not getting that. Like I said, I think Gareth is really, really talented. My biggest concern is his character directing. But it can be a little stiff, a little drab, which isn't always the worst thing, but I don't think it's always fit in his films. So like Jurassic, I feel like needs a little life, but beyond that, I mean, he's put out some really cool things, and this movie's gonna be a visual feast. Tonal, it should be fantastic. The characters at worst will be like a little dry.
I just got really excited because I remembered that Greg Fraser's schedule opened up a little bit because the Batman.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was trying to remember his name.
Gosh. I don't want to get my hopes up, but like, oh, I've said it 100 times. Like that would
I
just
would
be
love
so
that.
amazing. That would be so incredible.
Yeah,
The
that game's
question is
delayed till
did they already find a
2026 now.
cinematographer when he was unavailable?
Say that again.
I said the question is did they already find a cinematographer when he was unavailable?
Oh yeah. That's
Director of
valid point.
photography, let's say. You know, I imagine that he would want to do it, especially with the history with Gareth. The question is did they already find somebody, or also does he want to do it in theory, but like his schedule's been so cramped that he might look at the delay of the Batman as like a chance to like recuperate a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But man, I was
just a little bit off of that. Do you think David Koepp would ever direct a Jurassic movie? Because the example that I immediately thought was Kevin Williamson, who wrote the Scream movies and then is now coming back to direct them, which I don't know. David Koepp has some history of directing.
So what's interesting is David Koepp was on a podcast last year for Jurassic Park's 30th anniversary about screenwriting, and something that he brings up pretty like vividly and artistically is the fact that he fucking hates directing. He does not enjoy the experience.
Does anyone like directing?
He really does not like directing. It's really funny. He's talking about like, so first is the worst part of directing, pre-production. You got to point at some storyboards and say I like that, and then have a bunch of meetings about artists. And then he's like, the second stage of directing, which also sucks, directing the movie. And then he basically sounds like he likes it. He likes the editing bay work, and he likes the writing work, but he does not like the pre-production and production work. And yeah, he was being a little flowery with his language by having fun, but like it was pretty clear that like he's not one of those directors that like, yes, it's super stressful in the moment, but he's not one of those ones that goes like, yeah, that was an experience. I think he's one of those ones that goes like, oh fuck, we got through that by like the skin of our teeth.
That's probably why he's not directing his adaptation of his novel that's coming out, Cold Storage.
Yeah.
He's not directing it. Yeah.
He also has very strong opinions about TV storytelling. As in he takes some big heavy swings at TV storytelling and takes some big dunks on TV, and he goes like, so anyways, I'm not trying to compare the two mediums. I'm just saying film is the superior medium. And I do get what he's saying, because he's kind of more talking about procedural TV that does not have a clear arc and that's meant to go on as long as possible. So the story arcs kind of just keep looping and never like actually have any growth. I don't think I was surprised hearing that in a interview that just came out last year, when we've had like a decade of prestige TV really taking over and showing that TV can be handled differently. Not that it didn't exist before then, but it was not the way you really thought about TV before then, largely. And now it is the way you think about TV. So I'm surprised to hear that, but it was pretty funny listening to him. So what I would not expect is a David Koepp written TV show, unless they came to him and said, like, we want you to write a 3-season show that's it. And then like if he saw a beginning, middle, and end, he might take it, but otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, breaking down like a feature script and like breaking that down into a series or something, but
or a mini series like Dinotopia.
Dinotopia, what a throwback!
That is what
the OG mini series of my time.
That needs a remake so bad.
Yes. Oh my god, yes. I wish that Disney, because Disney produced it, and I wish that they would redo Dinoland USA at their park as Dinotopia.
Oh, yeah.
And keep the ride scary.
Am I making
this up?
Did was there a talk of rebooting Dinotopia with Disney, or did I make that up? And is that just something that
I thought it was Dinosaur. That's what I was hearing. Like
I saw Dinotopia. Like I remember someone talking about Dinotopia being developed by somebody. It might have been HBO or something, but
that would be really cool.
It would be amazing.
I was pretty sure that Disney was, because they also announced that they were going to try and do a Skull Island series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
like a year or so ago, and I was like, wait, what? But I haven't heard anything more about that.
They did do the Monarch series.
Well, no, that was because Monarch is Legendary, right?
Apple TV.
Right. Yeah. Like Disney was going to produce, there's like a book series from like the late 80s or something.
Interesting.
That they were going to try and develop into a series for Disney Plus.
To be fair, that's probably not happening now that they have dialed back on Disney Plus outings. or at least try to focus them a little bit more. I think they realize they just need to take really big, heavy swings and fewer swings is what it's coming down to. But yeah, I would love for a Dinotopia show. I would love for a show to do like the Dinotopia thing, so Jurassic doesn't try to chase that. As it's like foothold going forward. Who'd we lose?
I think Jay, but I'm not sure what happened.
And I would love for a film to maybe do the Dino, like not a Jurassic film, but somebody to do the Dino human hybrids thing, so Jurassic doesn't see that as bold new territory to walk into. I think that it'd be kind of cool if somebody else does that, so Jurassic can continue being Jurassic and have room for exploration without like really going down one of those roads that it becomes Jurassic. Because that is obviously one of the worries with that rumor that I'm not putting much credence to, but is the Dino human hybrid part, like unless it's a MacGuffin.
I feel like it would be. I mean, I feel like it would be kind of cool, but also extremely odd if like there was some movie set like 30 years after Jurassic World Dominion or something, and like dinosaurs are so spread in places that like they're in the like walking down streets in cities and like people are riding them and we're using them for agriculture. I don't. That's just would be. I would watch it and I would think it was cool, but it would be kind of odd.
It's like not Jurassic anymore, and like it's Dinotopia sort of. It's like post-apocalyptic Dinotopia, which is why I would watch something like that. I just kind of hope it's Dinotopia that I end up watching that is something like that. And Jurassic finds a different way to navigate its future stories in a world where dinosaurs roam the earth once again. Maybe not as widespread as Dominion implies. Maybe they dial it back and continue to make it a growing threat that has to be managed and dealt with, among other things, which I think is more compelling because once it's done, the story's gone. I mean, the interesting part of the story is what happens if that happens and how do you stop that from happening and how does it happen? And Dominion speed ran through that and didn't show us any of that, and it just went to the post game at that point, and it's
went to coexist.
Yeah, it went to the weird epilogue as a giant story, and it skipped the very interesting parts that are thematically interesting and have actual stakes and room for like change and growth and regression. And now I don't know what you do other than backtracking what Dominion says and dialing it back and really trying to make it again like a slow proliferation that is an amping growing threat.
Yeah, well, I think it was really Charlotte's story all along.
Yeah,
you know.
I think what Chris said before, how like they kind of distancing themselves away from Dominion. I think that's like the most, like that's the thing I've really taken from this podcast, because when you do look at the rumors, you do look at everything on social media. There's no mention of like continuing on from Dominion at all.
Especially not the trades. And the trades are basically getting their information from the studio in a way that isn't a formal press release, so the studio doesn't have to put their name behind it. But, it's very telling that the first information we get is not really saying Dominion, not saying Jurassic World. The first information we got was David Koepp, the screenwriter of Jurassic Park, a whole new story, a whole new era, new characters. It's really trying to pave that expectation of this is going to be a new direction. This is going to be something new. It can still be a sequel, but don't think that it's going to be picking up all that baggage of Dominion and those characters and bringing them forward. Like it's going to introduce fresh ideas. What you were left with in Dominion and thinking like, oh, I guess this is where they're going next, isn't necessarily where they're going next,
I was going to say that kind of makes that thought process of them like wanting to distance themselves from Dominion, quote unquote, like that makes the whole sequel versus prequel thing, like that kind of adds to that for me, because I'm like, if they're trying to distance themselves from Dominion and dinosaurs being all over the world, why would they show that widespread again? It would have to be shrunk down, dialed back.
That's why I would prefer a prequel first, because you do a prequel.
Exactly.
You mentally distance the audience from that time period in those events. And then you seed new plot elements that when you do a sequel, those plot elements have grown into a tree. And those seeds have now spread. And now you have like a forest to work with rather than like just the seed of an idea. Now we get to actually roam that new, fresh territory, whatever that might be. Which is, and then also that gives the audience time between Dominion and the like future sequel. Time to think, time to kind of forget about every nuance that Dominion left, the taste that Dominion left. And it gives them like sort of a fresher approach to people, instead of people being like, wait, didn't Dominion say this? Or like, oh, I don't know if I want to continue that story. Just going back in time really helps alleviate that. But I don't think that's what's happening. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I don't think it's what's happening.
As we approach an hour 10 here, that's kind of a good spot to start winding this pod down, maybe. Any final Jurassic thoughts from anybody? Anything else we want to talk about?
I'm trying to think if there's anything that we've missed. Was there like any like little toy news or whatever that we've missed? Any?
I don't know about toy news. I don't think so. But we talked about the game stuff.
Yeah, the games. Seems like there's so much Jurassic news yet, like also not a ton. Every week.
Yeah, it seems like we're waiting for like more stuff, if that makes it like
we're
like
in the cycle. We're in the cycle
yeah.
again.
Yeah. I really do hope that we get more casting news soon. I hope that we get to that point with the casting news that it's the trades and they start to seed little sprinkles of information of like not just this actor's been cast, but like we hear this actor's been cast in this type of role with this type of like driven purpose or this type of personality. Start to get those seeds of an element of so we can start to understand what this movie is, because there's a lot to be excited about, but like optimistically cautious, Corey, is really the best way to put it, because that's where I am at with it. I think that their heads are in the right place conceptually, but I do wonder what that story is going to be. And God forbid it's a sequel, and God forbid it intersects human dinosaur hybrids. Does that pave the road? Is that supposed to be what the future is? That scares me. But then again, as I've been trying to say, I'm not putting a lot of credence into that scooper. So,
hey, as soon as we hear who's getting cast as Hurricane Clarissa, I think we'll know.
Yeah, who's gonna play Blue in this movie? Because obviously she's gonna talk.
No,
that's,
stop!
That's who
feed that.
ScarJo is
Don't feed
cast
that.
as. Blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The final thing I'll say, sequel or prequel, I really hope they bring back some legacy Jurassic Park dinosaur designs alongside some Jurassic World ones and alongside some all new ones. Like that's you don't have returning characters, then bring back those designs that have basically solidified themselves in people's imaginations as maybe not a character, but a character, you know?
Yeah.
So you want JP3 Raptors in the new movie?
JP3 Raptors are pretty cool.
William!
I mean, hell, even something like Mamenchisaurus or Pachycephalosaurus, you know, just something they're like, oh, cool. That's something from Jurassic Park, I forgot. Or a male T-Rex, like properly seen on screen, and you can actually, it's a male T-Rex, rather than like need to listen to the behind-the-scenes jargon, and then the behind-the-scenes jargon continues to contradict itself because it says, yeah, it's the Tyrannosaur family that you see from The Lost World, the two green T-Rexes. And you're like, wait, no, that's not how it works. They weren't both green. What? I don't know. Dominion doesn't.
My major question at this point is, what is there going to be anything literal in this next movie that shows us that it's tied to the universe? And I don't know what that would, if that's a character, if that's a
it's once again Henry Wu.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So I don't know. We're gonna find out, I guess.
Well, what's interesting is, like, if you would have asked me like 10 years ago, would they do a prequel at this point, I would say no. But thanks to like Marvel and Star Wars, they've kind of proved that you can go back and forth and audiences can keep up.
Yeah.
So they could do, like Chris said, a prequel now and then a sequel later. Like they could do all of it if they want to.
Alien, the franchise, Alien franchise, you know, with Prometheus and the abysmal Alien Covenant. I'm not a fan of Alien Covenant at all.
Ooh,
but I
disagree.
Same.
I'm not either. Prometheus is much better, but that's just
Same.
Or like Predator and Prey. I think that there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of regain audience trust by going to something back to basics, back in time, and then seed certain new ideas. So that is.
Hey, if you think about Alien Resurrection, thousands of years in the future, alien human hybrids. I mean, they set the blueprint.
That's what it makes me we're dropping like flies.
I don't know what's
He
happening.
really didn't like
It's
Alien
the DX
Resurrection.
virus. Yeah, Jay's internet went out. They told me. So
Okay.
yeah.
I had a point that I was building to, and one final question I was going to end with, and I've totally forgotten it. So if one of you could read my mind and read that question, that would be fantastic. And we can
I'm sorry
wash-
our marriage
wash
is
our
left
hands of this.
speechless, Chris.
Yeah, the divorce is not going well.
Corey, any final Jurassic thoughts?
I'm excited. It's a good time to be a Jurassic fan. I mean, that's just
Absolutely.
really it. This is the lead ups to the movies are my favorite times because it's where you meet the most new people, you get the most exposure to the community, and that's the exciting part of like doing podcasts like this with y'all, and hearing from other folks outside of us. It's the most fun part. So I'm just excited where we're at right now, and like we've all said, cautiously optimistic for the future.
For sure. I think that's a good sentiment to end on, perhaps. So thanks for listening to episode 116 of the Jurassic Outpost podcast. Thank you, Corey and Double D and Chris and Jay and Jaden for being a part. Yeah, people's internet started cutting out. So
Thanks for hosting, Caleb.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Yes.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Hopefully
Bye-bye.
soon, as we have to have more news.
Exactly. Goodbye.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.